Welcome back to The Explainer. You know, it's wild to think about, but the average person has over 6,000 thoughts every single day. Most of them just background noise, vanishing without a trace. But today, we're doing a deep, microscopic dive into the exact foundational mechanisms of self-confidence. We're drawing directly from a super concise piece of source material called Cognitive Foundations of Self-Confidence. So if you've ever found yourself wondering how confidence actually works on a mechanical, neurological level, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to put the source text under a microscope today, breaking down the exact wording to really figure out how our internal operating system functions.
All right, let's dive right into this. The foundational text from our source module reads like this. This module helps participants to focus on the thought as the mechanism building up self-confidence. The cognitive behavioral principle would be shared with participants to control their mind when they encountered issues in self-confidence. Wow, okay, let those two sentences sink in for a second, because they are incredibly dense. They're presenting a profoundly mechanical view of human confidence. We're not talking about vague, feel-good affirmations here. We're looking at a deeply structural approach to the human mind.
But that immediately brings up a fascinating question. What does it actually mean to use a thought as a mechanism? Seriously, pause and think about the psychological weight of that for a second. Normally, when we hear the word mechanism, we think of physical things, right? Gears, levers, pulleys, and engine. So how in the world do we take something as invisible, fleeting, and totally intangible as a thought and suddenly treat it like a physical tool? How does a tiny wisp of electrical activity in the brain become a sturdy, reliable mechanism for building something as complex as self-confidence?
To answer that, we need to isolate the first core concept from the text. Part 1, the power of thought.
The source material absolutely does not view thoughts as just random, chaotic things that happen to us while we're going about our day. Instead, it positions them as powerful, deliberate focal points. This fundamentally shifts the whole definition of what a thought even is when it comes to building confidence. We're moving completely away from that default state of ambient mental noise, those passing, uncontrolled ideas, and turning them into a highly focused target of attention. The text explicitly says the module helps participants to focus. And it's that active verb, focus, that transforms a fleeting thought from a passive experience into an observable, concrete tool.
And once you're actively focusing on a thought, its entire function changes. Which brings us to part 2, thought as a mechanism.
This classification is, honestly, the most radical and practical concept in the entire source text. By literally classifying a thought as a mechanism, the source material completely strips away the emotion, the mystery, and the guesswork from self-confidence. A mechanism is defined here as the specific operational process used for building up self-confidence. Just think about the implications of that for a moment. It means confidence isn't magic. It's not a genetic lottery. It doesn't just depend on whether you woke up on the right side of the bed today. The source defines your thought as the literal mechanism, the gears, the engine, the operational process that constructs your confidence from the ground up.
To really cement this mechanical view, let's look at its 3 main pillars. First, this process requires active focus. The machine doesn't just run on autopilot, it demands your conscious participation. Second, it treats thoughts as operational tools. You literally pick up a specific thought to do a specific job, kind of like grabbing a wrench to tighten a bolt. And third, the direct intended output of running this mechanism is building up self-confidence. Now, why does this matter so much for us? Because if confidence is built by a mechanism, it means absolutely anyone can operate it. You just need the instruction manual and a little time to learn the controls.
So, what exactly is the instruction manual for this mental machine? How do we know which levers to pull? Well, that's addressed in part 3, the cognitive behavioral principle. This principle is the specific framework the source material uses to get the mechanism running smoothly. Think of it as a shared conceptual tool, deliberately handed over to individuals in the module, specifically to help them manage and direct their own thinking. The term cognitive behavioral itself gives us a massive clue. It implies a direct link. Changing how you think, your cognition, directly alters your behavior and your emotional state. It's a highly targeted intervention. The facilitators aren't just out there telling people, hey, just be confident. No, they're sharing a proven, structured principle that acts as the operating software for the mind's hardware.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact trigger point for booting up that new software. Look, we all face the inevitable reality of encountering issues with self-confidence. The source material doesn't pretend we'll never feel doubt or face insecurity, but the key is that the issue is immediately met with the application of the shared cognitive behavioral principle. The text explicitly links these two things together. The exact moment you encounter a confidence issue is the exact moment this shared principle has to be deployed. It's a precise cause and effect relationship designed to stop a downward spiral dead in its tracks and instantly initiate problem solving.
And when that trigger is recognized and the principle is applied successfully, we reach the ultimate goal. Part 4, controlling the mind.
This is the absolute peak, the most powerful phase of the module's intended outcome. The ultimate objective of the principle is to control their mind. And I really want to emphasize this because we simply cannot overstate how ambitious this source text is. The ultimate goal here isn't just about making you feel a little bit better or temporarily easing some anxiety. The stated objective is achieving literal, operational control over your own mind, especially in the face of adversity. By using thoughts as tools, your mind is no longer the master driving your anxiety. You become the master driving your mind.
Let's map out how all of this builds into a complete chronological journey. This is the exact pathway the source material lays out. Step 1, you encounter a self-confidence issue. Boom, doubt hits. Step 2, instead of spiraling, you immediately apply the shared cognitive behavioral principle. Step 3, through that application, you regain control of your mind. And finally, step 4, you actively build self-confidence using your focused thought as the mechanism. It's a beautifully logical, step-by-step roadmap drawn straight from those two original sentences.
Which brings us to the core synthesized takeaway of this entire explainer. Self-confidence is an operational skill, built thought by thought. By understanding the source material's highly microscopic, mechanical view of cognition, we realize something incredibly freeing. Confidence isn't just a trait you either have or lack. It is constructed, deliberately and repeatedly, by individuals who have learned to focus their attention and actually operate the machinery of their own minds.
It really is a deeply empowering framework. So, to wrap up our analysis today, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. The next time you inevitably hit step 1, the next time your confidence wavers, what exact thought will you choose to focus on as your mechanism? Because remember, the tool is sitting right there in your head, just waiting for you to pick it up and use it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.